You are listening to Sustainable from AgriBusiness Global, covering the crop protection, biologicals, and plant health markets advancements toward a healthier planet. Hello, everyone, and welcome to AgriBusiness Global's Sustainable podcast. My name is Sarah Webb, and I'm the editor of AgriBusiness Global and host of today's episode. In this episode, I speak with Gregory Rogers, Director of Technical Marketing and Communication at Certis Biologicals, about the product launch process and what the company does to help educate growers on biologicals so they can adopt them as part of an integrated management approach. Thank you so much for joining me today. How do Certis Biologicals products work with integrated programs? And do you research how your products work with synthetic chemicals?
Yes, we do, actually. When we field test our products, we tend to start with just a straight product through the season, just to see what our product can do. This is what everybody does, kind of, right? But once we have a feel for where our strengths are, we'll then start to lace it into other programs, whether they're pure play organic or whether they're conventional. And we found in a lot of crops, grapes and blueberries and apples kind of come to mind, top of mind, that you can alternate a conventional with one of our biologicals and end up with the same level of control.
And what would you say are some of the biggest challenges you face when bringing new biological solutions to U.S. growers, and how do you address them?
That's a good question. So the biological market's been around for a long time, and certainly there is sort of a perception that maybe the products aren't as high quality as other companies, other like synthetics, if you will. And I think that unfortunately, history has taught people that could be true. You know, we at Certis try really hard. Not only have we been around now for this is our 25th year as Certis, and prior to being Certis, we were several other companies that came together. So we've been in the biological market space for, 30, 35 years easily. Is that the fact that we're still here and the fact that we're producing products that are EPA labeled, which means we're standing behind our label claims, helps us with the growers. Certainly, there are growers that are harder than others, right? And I would say when you're in the specialty market, it's much easier to get a biological on the acre than it is in, say, a row crop market, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a couple reasons for that. One is there's a lot more applications in specialties as a rule, but also row crop growers tend to be a little more, I don't want to say old-fashioned, that's not right. They tend to be very more tied to, I have to succeed, I can't take a chance, right? Whereas specialty guys, number one, we do a lot of research in specialties, and we have university data that shows that we work. They're much more willing to take a chance. And there's also a lot more pressure on them to use products for regulatory, from export, that sort of thing, right? One of the places we're working now to try to help growers understand the value of biologicals is in row crops. And I know that's everybody's dream, right? To be in row crops. There's so much there. And we understand their needs. We understand the fact that they're going to get out maybe twice a season with a fungicide. And we have to be able to stand in that program. And what we're doing with growers now is showing them, in a lot of cases, the benefit of including a biological, not leaning entirely on a biological, right? So in a specialty market where you're spraying every 7 days or 10 days or 14 days, it's easy to rotate in. But in a row crop where you're spraying twice a full season and you need a lot of control, a lot of times our products are better used as an additional level of control, an additional mode of action. And so that's the thing we work with. But a lot of it is just gaining trust, working with the grower, helping them understand, having them come to trust myself or one of my colleagues, and then you can make a lot more gains with them, right? And always when I work with a grower, I want them to be successful, right? I would rather not sell a product and have a grower be successful than the other way around, right? And I think growers come to recognize that when they work with people from Certis, is that we're not here to sell your product at all costs. We're here to sell your product and help you succeed in your efforts.
Absolutely. And kind of building on that too, can you talk to me a little bit about how you do work with growers and ag retailers during product launch phases to ensure adoption and proper use? And then also what kinds of training or educational resources you provide?
That's a great question. So as a rule, Certis goes through distributors to our final customer, right? So we don't always work directly with growers. We would work with a distributor rep, and what we would do when we launch a new product is, and this is a great opportunity in my mind, when we launch a new product, it's exciting. We've launched a couple in the past in my career here. It gives you an opportunity to say, hey, let's all get together and talk about this new product. I'll teach you how it works and how you can use it. And again, that gets me in front of them. It lets them come to know me or one of my colleagues, right? And that they can trust us. They can come to us with questions, right? And that's the most important thing. It's almost not even the product launch. It's the improving that relationship, building that relationship, right? But certainly using our products correctly is part of the way you succeed. I would say biologicals can be less of a hammer than a conventional. And so you have to understand how to place them, how to use them, etc. And so, yeah, training is an important part of that. We do work with growers occasionally. We'll get called in by retailers, like by, say, a specific location, say, hey, can you come help me with this grower? And that's always great. I love that experience because, the growers ask a lot of questions, and I think they kind of enjoy trying to trip you up a little bit. It's fun to play that game with them and again, gain their trust. And I've had that opportunity a couple of really kind of exciting times here at Certis where I've gone out and helped a grower succeed where he was struggling with the disease, offered him one of our products, which normally you wouldn't say, oh, a biological is the answer, but it was the answer. And, I always joke, those growers still come to see me when I go to trade shows. So I must have done something right? We must have been successful. But yeah, that part of it, certainly our website offers a place to go and learn some basic stuff about our products. Our labels obviously offer instructions for use, but really the best way for someone wanting to use a biological is to consult their expert, right? Whether it's me as a Certis rep for a Certis product, or whether it's an extension agent who's an expert or a PCA who's an expert. How do I succeed with these products, right? And so we rely a lot on that web of all the other people that we can help influence and train to get our message out there.
Absolutely. And, you mentioned having conversations with growers. But within those conversations, what other trends are you seeing from them in terms of demand for biologicals or integrated programs?
So I think it really depends. If you have a grower that's perfectly successful with their current program, they're not going to change. And frankly, why would they want to if there's no reason, right? There's no compelling reason. But where we get to places where, I'll give you an example, working with pepper growers who are dealing with bacterial disease. And, copper is what copper is on bacterial disease. And there aren't a lot of tools out there, whether you're organic or conventional, for bacterial disease. So we have a product that's a systemic acquired resistance that turns on the plant's defenses. And it works really well in complement with their base program, right? Their base program of copper and whatever else they decide to use. And working with them on that and, just try this. And we will do that. We'll say, hey, we'll give you some product. You give it a shot on a piece of your acres and let me know what you think. And what we almost always find from them is, yes, hey, you're right, this does work. But you know what else I noticed is I'm getting better control of these other diseases in the field, right? Or my plants are yielding better, or they're a little bit more healthy, or whatever that might be. And I think that's part of the way that we kind of get to that grower. And then, although growers don't like to often share their secret sauce, they'll brag about their success. That helps us too, right?
Is there anything else you would like to add on this topic?
Yeah, I think something else on the discussion of why a grower might want to take our products and use them. We're seeing, and not so much in the US right now, but there certainly is the thought of this, is a lot of places, Canada, Europe, Asia, are cracking down on the use or limiting the use of a lot of the protective chemistries that growers have grown used to using, right? So the manzates, the chlorthalonils, those sort of products, the captans, and whether it's a baby food company saying we'd like to limit captan, or whether it's Europe that says, no, you can't use that product anymore, right? Our products then address that sort of need to balance out the, highly effective single site mode of action products with the need to protect those single site mode of action products from resistance. And if you put a biological in your system, it's a multi-site mode of action product in almost every instance, right? We have one that isn't, but in general, biologicals across the board are multi-site mode of action. And so it does give you that protectant quality and allows you to keep using your single site mode of action products while meeting export regulations different in Canada, for example, growing successfully when they've taken away some of your protected applications, right? And I think that's another way into a grower's program, is to give them an answer for something that they just can't answer anymore, right?
Absolutely. Well said. And thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing all your insights.
Of course.
Thank you for listening to Sustainable from AgriBusiness Global. You can find more podcasts, videos, news, e-newsletters, event, and webinar information at agribusinessglobal.com.